Hello everyone, it's Matt here and welcome to the Brickliner update for December. I have now completed the train, so we're now going to go through the train starting with the head end combine and then progressing through to the observation car right at the end. So this is the combine right in front of us with a small passenger section which should continue down the train, and also this baggage section which will be right next to the locomotive. And as you can see, this corridor connection actually has the door built in because it's using these special plates to get some studs which will fit on the 2x3 tiles rather at the base. I'm using 2x3 plates because they're not actually available in LEGO Digital Designer. So that bit actually just snaps into the top, that bit snaps into the bottom. As if we move further down the train, we have these two what would be sliding baggage doors. And these also have the only handrail on the entire train next to them. These would actually have steps underneath, and if possible I would actually extend that further down as well, so that if there's people on the ground they could actually be able to climb up using that handrail, lift the handle and then slide the door across and then get in that way. And the design of the train, or most of the train, is actually mirrored as per the prototype, because that would mean they'd just flip the design, and that would essentially be the design work for both sides done. It also made construction easier, so that's why I've done it for this as well. There's a door at the end of the baggage section that actually goes through into the passenger section, so that would be for the conductor or any train crew to go in and out. There should be, or want to build in, a small desk within the baggage section and some cupboards for the conductor to do some of the railroad's business, and the rest of this section will be taken up with some shelves and some cupboards and possibly some cages as well, just for baggage storage. Moving on to the next car further down the train, it's the open car that you've seen in the previous update video, and there's been no changes to it except for moving it around. I haven't added any of the toilet detail yet, that's something I'll need to look into, but obviously there's two toilets, so one set of detail will actually be duplicated across both. Moving on, we'd now move to the kitchen and dining car, or the restaurant car. This would then connect to the end of the second observation car here, so the standard class passengers would actually have seating and dining right next to the kitchen, and the reason for that is that all the noise of the kitchen would then be contained into the standard class section, as well as all the horrible smells if there's any weird cooking, for example, and stuff like that. And again, the kitchen section is the full width of the car, unlike the previous version, and actually has doors both ends as well as a serving hatch. I do want to put a pillar in to the one side, because obviously the door opens outwards but there's nothing supporting that cross beam except for the sides, so I do want to put something in the middle just to represent that, and again the same on the other end. The kitchen car has a lot more detail, including a mock floor. So you start off on this side, we have a cupboard here, and this pole was actually supposed to be a rolling pin, but it actually serves quite well as some sort of vent or something like that, so I'm actually going to keep that as is. And then next to that we have a saucepan and a pot, and then we have a screwdriver that's supposed to represent some sort of kitchen implement. Below that we have a sink with two taps, a hot and a cold, and then we obviously have the sink area, and then we have a 2x3 brick for the straining board. I'm tempted to change this for some 2x3 plates and some grills, just to get a little bit more relief in there. There's also some vent holes at the bottom here, which I'd imagine would be for the ovens for some air intake. Speaking of the ovens, we have two now, and they've got a frying pan and a pot on them representatively. And these are just in dark grey, and there's some grill wicks at the bottom just to represent some heat shielding for the floor, for example, or something like that. And they're in clear. The front doors are actually in clear, so that the staff can actually see inside. Moving to the opposite side, we have a preparation bench here, with some windows outside, and we also have some rather useful implements here. So we've got a variety of knives and cutting implements. We've got two sorts of knives there, and we have a cleaver here, we have a pair of scissors, and we have a measuring cup in clear. We also have four door sections here, or cupboards, as well as a variety of things on top. So these could be fridges, cupboards, things like that. It's up to the imagination of the person viewing this train to decide what they are. There's also a variety of tins and bottles and stuff on top. So we have a clear sort of shaker with a silver lid. That's supposed to be the brown and white thing is actually supposed to be a metallic tin of something, and then we also got some red and yellow there and a green box there. And we also got another cupboard underneath the second serving hatch, and that's actually for the first class section. So obviously what would happen is crew would put their orders and pick up any orders that have been prepared and ready from these end serving counters, and then either serve it out or take it into the next car, which is what the first class passengers would do. So obviously the crew for the first class would actually come in, drop any orders off, pick up any orders, and then they'd take them through to the bit of the dining car here. Now, as the first class section, these are actually in dark green, the seats are, to match the lamps. So this is a premium section of the car, and as per the observation car, it actually now has a yellow band around the top to signify that this is a premium car. So it would attract an extra fee or an upgrade fee, or just be a new class ticket entirely. So this is just a duplicate of the second car, with just the yellow band, which is a recolour from the blue one, and then the seats have all been recoloured into the dark green colour. I might actually reduce some of the seating in here to get a bit more space, and I might put in a small luggage section and maybe some other detail as well, just to change it up a bit from the second one. And finally we come to the observation car. The bar section in this has undergone quite a large amount of changes. It's now far bigger than it used to be. The counter is now a 1x8 and a 2x2 square joined together, so 1x10 in terms of overall length. And the rear section is pretty much stayed as is. There's been a few more additions, and there's now 2 cupboards as well, with doors on either end. The lamp here at the corner right next to the coffee maker or hot water machine is actually the only lamp on the entire train that's not in parallel with the train itself, and that's just for a bit of change to make it look a little different. So the changes are that with this cupboard there's also now some sugar shakers, so if you'd have some sugar in your hot drink, you can now add that with these two here. There's a brown one and a white one for brown and white sugar respectively. And right next to them is actually a bin, or a simulated bin at least, and then that's also right next to the serving area as well. There's actually 3 cups now. There's no changes to the amount of wine, so there's just 1 bottle and 3 glasses, and there's a few more extra details and changes around there as well. The yellow bar again exists to signify a premium car or a next band car, so obviously you pay a premium to be in this car. The seats in here are actually in sand green. They're supposed to be in dark green, so I actually changed that now, and that is to match up and just to create a bit of uniformity, so they actually match the lamps, just like that, and they're finished. So that is just to signify this is first class, so the seat colours are different, just to give a bit more of a premium feel and premium look to the train, and signify that, you know, this is a different class, it's a different world. There's 4 tables in here, so there's 8 seated tables, and there's a pairing of seats there, and there's just some general seats as well. The end of the car actually has 4 seats in it now, face outwards, and there's a little table at the end, and that's actually giving off a lot more light into the car because of the new end. That infill there is actually supposed to be like an enclosure for the end of the car to smooth everything out. And speaking of the end of the car, there was actually supposed to be a table lamp there. I did put one in, but it didn't look right being off centre, and changing the height of this doesn't actually make it look right effectively, and it's be hard to actually make it a decent enough change to actually make it look proper. The end of the car then has seen the biggest amount of changes. It's now actually representative of a Pensy car, I believe it is, in terms of the overall shaping. but quite a few of the railways would have a similar design. It's essentially a straight end, so this end here is actually perpendicular to the main run of the car, and then these side bits actually hinge off that to create the rounded end. These bottom plates are actually the 4x4 quarter circle plates, and there's just two of those stacked up next to each other to simulate that sort of half circle curve, and that actually kind of represents the curve of the car as well, slightly. If Lego had actually did some proper curves, that would be similar to what I'd want to do. This tailboard here is actually going to be a custom print by Brickliner, which should, I'd imagine, be done by now, and that actually be held on using a Technibrick. So what I'm aiming to do is that piece there wouldn't actually exist. This piece would actually be glued on to the end of the car, maybe to a Technibrick or a see-through brick with a hole drilled in it for the light, and that would actually be lit up as well. So that would actually be a lit board for the train to signify what it was. There's still a bit of work to do on the roof end of the observation car here, because obviously it's not quite there, and it needs a few changes to make sure it's just there and smoothed out and actually looks half decent. I've also had the chance to change some things within the file itself. So the roofs are all, there's enough roofs here now, so there's actually enough roofs for every single car. They're all the same roof. I might change some of the ones for the kitchen car, just to add a bit more vents, a bit more detail, maybe simulate some extra water tanks or plumbing or something like that up there, because obviously it's going to have a lot of heat and smoke and fumes from the cooking, so obviously that needs to be changed as well. So moving to this end of the sort of design file, we have all 10 bogies, 2 per car, so we have the 9 standard bogies for the cars, and then we've also got the special one which is to fit under the observation car. That there's a special bogie for a reason, because obviously the end enclosure has the bottom skirt here with the coupler on it, so there's no need for actually that to be there. The doors are 4 wide instead of 3 wide now for the corridor connections or corridor diaphragms, and these have been changed around, not dramatically. There's been a few parts changes and substitutions as well. So the original idea was for a 1x2 jumper tile to be the door handle. I've now changed that to a headlight brick in reddish brown and one of these plumes or small feathers in yellow to represent the handle. The 1x3s at the bottom are changed to 1x4s. The plates have all changed to 1x4 plates, and the windows have changed to 1x2 clear bricks from 1x1 clear bricks. So it's not a lot of changes, but just enough to simulate a bit more detail, a bit more finesse, and just to pack out the car a bit more. The only bit that hasn't really seen any action has been these underframes, and that's largely because I want to deal with those in real life, because they're a lot easier. I've actually changed some of these rounds in the file to represent how I've currently got the car, that obviously I still want to change them around to represent the car as it will be. So I'm going to do those in real life first, to work out clearances and that sort of thing, and then convert them back into LDD format for future reference. And lastly, for an interesting tidbit, we actually have the prototyped end of the observation car here. So this was actually going to be the original design. So you've just got the you'd have the size of the car coming up here with these hinge pieces which don't have any bricks on, and then you'd have these 4 panels to simulate the curve. Now obviously this is not done properly, because as you can see here, these 2 hinge plates do not align properly, and that's just something with the way Lego Visual Designer works and the way I've had to duplicate those hinges. So yeah, that's the review over with. I'll see you in the next video.